RMJ Movie Reviews back again with my review of No Contest, starring Shannon Tweed, Robert Davi, Andrew Dice Clay, and Hot Rod Roddy Piper from 1995. No Contest comes from an era of cable television that I myself used to enjoy quite a bit. And there was a thing that used to air on HBO back in the late 80s to early mid-90s called Thursday Night Action Prime. It was a series of exploitation films that starred the famous low-budget actors of the day. Shannon Tweed, Andrew Stevens, Don the Dragon Wilson, Lorenzo Lamas, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Gary Daniels, Billy Blanks. And basically what you have with No Contest is it's a die-hard knockoff. And these films that aired on HBO Thursday Night Prime were heavy on exploitation. And there's almost beat-by-beat plot points that almost emulate Die Hard to a T. The main villain is played by the Dice Man himself, Andrew Dice Clay, and he nicely walks into a beauty pageant contest, and he promptly shoots one of the contestants in the head and takes all the female contestants hostage. I used to love watching these films so much when I was like 8 through like maybe 13 years old, probably 14 years old when I was a kid, because my parents had cable television. This movie is funneled from the 1970s grindhouse exploitation era, and you feel that in every single frame of No Contest, just from the way it looks, from the acting, which is very hammy, I might add, all the way down to the unnecessary amounts of blood that spray out when characters are killed, all the way down to when they remove articles of clothing for camera, which is my favorite part. It's built to look like an action film, but the reality is it's a movie about the mistreatment of women, because all the terrorists, all of them, are male, and they're led by Ray Liotta's stepbrother. Roddy Piper in this film, he's basically playing the Carl character from Die Hard. He is quite scary and quite unhinged. It basically starts with him threatening to pull a woman, might I add, she is a woman of color, to pull her nose ring out or pull her fingernails back, and it just goes on and on. It's absolutely horrible. It's terrifying, man, and he's really, really scary. You know, Roddy Piper had such an endearing personality, but the other thing about Hot Rod Roddy Piper was he had intensity to him that was absolutely frightening. Most of the female characters are either psychologically abused or physically abused, or put in some sort of predicament where, you know, this thing we wear called clothes have to be removed. And the movie bounces back and forth between the two. I mean, there's literally scenes of like psychological and physical mistreatment, then followed by scenes of rolling around in that thing that we call a bedroom. You know, and it's such a weird dichotomy between like that. It's a very just like a, I don't know the word, it's you know, pleasure and pain type of film. It's really odd and uncomfortable when you watch the film. Now, Shannon Tweed is basically, she's the lead in this movie. So she's the John McClane, she's the Bruce Willis role, which I love Shannon Tweed movies. I'm a gigantic fan of Night Eyes and Night Eyes 2. I can't remember if she was in Night Eyes 1. I think she was only in Night Eyes 2 with Andrew Stevens. So they kind of try to balance the mistreatment with having a female lead, but it's kind of like, because the mistreatment kind of gets so icky, it's so uncomfortable. You're like, is this actually right? Am I awful for watching this? I probably am, and I'm probably even worse because I'm actually enjoying the film, you know, not because of the mistreatment, but because of how ridiculous it is. It's absolutely silly nonsense. Ray Liotta's brother will, these women that they have hostage, to think that he would remove her from the situation, she could like seduce him and get him to go skinny dipping in a swimming pool in the bottom of this hotel, in which case she kickboxes him Jean-Claude Van Damme style, drop kicks him into the pool, in which case he's floating, knocked out, and then she proceeds to take his gun and take on terrorists by like, disarming bombs with utensils that you find in a beauty kit, to beating down Hot Rod Roddy Piper with a bag of ice. And the other thing, I also failed to mention that Robert Davi, one of the Fratellis from the Goonies, is in this film as too. Basically, well, they brought him in because he was in Die Hard as I believe he was an FBI agent in Die Hard, if I remember right. He can literally make trash sound good. And Robert Davi is literally playing this thing as if he's in a Joe Silver production. It's insane. He is a fantastically charismatic actor. I've always loved Robert Davi. I love the Maniac Cop movies. I even like 3, regardless of the problems of that film. He can make what he says sound credible, of which Shannon Tweed does not. And Shannon Tweed is gorgeous, and she's pretty. Not very convincing, but that's the fun part. The fun of it is how unconvincing it actually is. Even that these girls who are wearing tight beauty pageant dresses, let's even think about that, with high heels, that they'd even be able to overwhelm men who have, and these men are like mercenaries, I think, trained military, police force people who deal in deadly dangerous situations on a daily basis. Just to think that a 21-year-old beauty pageant queen can overtake a man who has military training in and of itself is absolutely ridiculous, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it highly enjoyable to the nth degree. This movie is so much fun. It's awful, but it's fun. Andrew Dice Clay is basically playing his character from his stage. So he was the Dice Man, and by this time, this was, I believe, 1995, I think, when this film came straight to HBO Prime. But Andrew Dice Clay's career was pretty much over by that time. It had long been over. The adventures of Ford Fairlane, I think, pretty much nosedived his career. His persona is the misogynistic attitude that he had in his stage character of the Dice Man, and the Dice Man is a character. That is not Andrew Clay in real life. That's not him, and he even said it on a TV show. That is not him. It's a character. I remember reading a review on the internet way back in the early 2000s where somebody said they should have switched the roles. Where I think, what did they say? They said the terrorist should have been Robert Davi, the cop should have been Roddy Piper, and the henchman should have been Andrew Dice Clay. Maybe that would have worked. I could kind of see that. This movie's hysterical, man. There's so many goofs in here. There's so many illogical, improbable things that are just stupid. There's a scene where literally Shannon Tweed goes head up, fist to fist with Andrew Dice Clay. And to see Shannon Tweed's double and Andrew Dice Clay's stunt double fight back and forth is hysterical. It's the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. And this fight scene here between Andrew Dice Clay and Shannon Tweed, I mean, like I said, you can see the stunt doubles. And what's even great about it is Andrew Dice Clay will literally do maybe one or two hand movements, and then you could hear him kind of with that New Yorkish, Brooklynish kind of accent. He goes, "Yeah, show me what you got. Yeah, come on." It's ridiculous. And Shannon Tweed is like this Beverly Hills, Paris Hilton-esque poodle carrying woman, and she's doing ha ha, and you see it do it like a side cross kick, and really it looks like it's probably a man in a wig. I don't think it is, but it kind of looks that way. Some way they make it enjoyable. I don't know how it's possible, but they make it enjoyable, and they make it in this loony, crazy movie probable in its own little universe. It's an insane film. It's absolutely insane. Everybody in this movie gets shot, and when they get shot, there's gobbles and gobbles of blood. Literally, the first dude who gets killed, the guy who's checking everybody into the place, I mean, there's a gobble of gore splattered across the wall, and it's wait, that's the first guy. What are they gonna do to everybody else? And it gets worse. It just gets worse, man. There's one woman who I believe they put these links around their neck that have explosives in them, and the girl goes I can't take it anymore, and she runs out of the room. And then I think it's either Ray Liotta's brother or this other goofy looking guy who's got a machine gun. Oh, this guy, he's so goofy. He kind of reminds me of the red-headed guy from Friday the 13th Part 2. Welcome to Goodville, or whatever that guy said in the movie. I think I said it wrong. Anyway, Andrew Dice Clay goes, wait a minute. Let it go. And he said let her go because the explosive is going to go off. So as she runs down the hallway, she explodes and flies out the window in flames. Ray Liotta's brother, who basically he's the catalyst for destroying the whole operation. Because he wants to take Shannon Tweed skinny dipping. He has like some bomb or something like hooked to his heartbeat, and if it stops, it'll explode. Andrew Dice Clay is like basically torturing him before he kills him and stops his heart. But anyway, he's like shooting him in his leg, and the guy's like, ah! You know, and Andrew Dice Clay is like, now you can die, or whatever he says, and then he shoots him in the chest. But it's funny. And then oh man, it's such a fun movie. It is absolutely fun. There's so much gold in this movie that No Contest is a staple of my childhood. It is the quintessential example of how us aspiring filmmakers were kind of bred from kind of these really silly exploitational films that used to air on cable television back then. And that was just a big part of my childhood. I loved HBO Thursday Night Prime. It was awesome. So if you don't like direct-to-video action movies from the early 90s and mid-90s that star Shannon Tweed and aired on HBO Thursday Night Prime, why don't you just go ahead and watch The Bridges of Madison County? RMJ Movie Reviews, I will see you soon.